Hey guys, Under here with another guide video. This time we're going to be talking about war as opposed to settling, change things up a little bit. Aim of this video is to give you guys some tips and tricks on aggressive early war. So this is going to be like the previous video, it's going to be multiplayer only, and we're going to be talking about how to kill your neighbor. So no defense, no talking about how to defend against an attack. This is purely based on attacking your neighbor. So, why do we want to attack our neighbour? Well, there's a few reasons. One, because it's fun. You might play the game to be a warmonger. You might love war. The reason why you play the game. But most importantly, number two is to free up the land. As you can see in this game here, we've got a single player game that I've just played some turns on. We've spawned pretty close to Egypt, and we've decided to go for an attack. This is going to free up all this land here for us, potentially, depending on if there's any other civs anywhere. Instead of having to, well, in a multiplayer game, we'd be discussing with a human player on who can settle where. So yeah, that's the main reason. You're going to have all this land, uncontested land to yourself. When you want to go to war, it's something that you need to decide very early on in the game. Usually, there's 2 points where you decide whether you want to go to war or not, and that's when you finish animal husbandry, because you're going to find out how many horses you've got access to, and finishing bronze working, because you're going to know where all your iron is then. Loyalty kind of comes into account, but that's more due to later era wars where you're going to be fighting wars, golden or dark ages, away from your capital. So we won't talk about that just for the moment. The main factors when determining whether you want to go through an early war or not is distance and terrain. Distance, obviously, because you don't want to spend 10, 15 turns walking, running, whatever, over to your enemy, giving him chance to see what you're doing. This is a perfect distance here. We're really close. There's not many hills to slow us down, just this like clump of rainforest here. Another thing to look at when you're looking at potential targets is rivers and where they're positioned. A city on a river has +5 defense bonus if you're attacking from the other side of that river. So as you can see here, we're attacking with this horseman here. There's no river defense bonus, whereas if we attacked with, have anything to attack with? We'll move that here. Oh, yeah, we can do it this turn actually. You can see here that the Swinet, the city, has a +5 river defense bonus now. So you need to bear that in mind. Also, rivers stop any movement. It costs 3 movement to cross over a river, so you're not going to have many units that can cross over a river and then move. The only exception to that is horses. They can still move 1 tile. So yeah, when you're looking at your target, try and see where the rivers are and where they're positioned. For example, if we were attacking the city from this side here, any of my units that come from the above from the north here, they're going to get stuck for a turn here because I'm not going to be able to cross this river. So if he places his archers well, he's going to be able to potentially shoot down and kill any units that come close. But here we've got a good position. So yeah, make sure you decide early. And that's mainly because of the strategic resources that they changed in Gathering Storm. So the first thing you want to do when you load into your game is, let's get the boring stuff out of the way first actually. Settings. These quick combat and quick movement settings, you want them both enabled. That's so that there's no attack animations, because the movement and attack animations are quite slow. If you've got them turned on, the animations, and your opponent's got them off, when you're performing an attack, you're going to be stuck in animation while your opponent could potentially kill 2 or 3 of your units. So yeah, make sure you've got them turned off. Another thing is hotkey, the most important one being the R hotkey. Now, when you're attacking with a ranged unit, most people are going to be inclined to just right click the unit. Like here now, I can right click this warrior and kill it. But you don't want to do that. Instead, you want to click R. And that's because of one or two reasons. First is, this is a multiplayer game. We're going to be playing in real time. My enemy moves this warrior as I right click to attack it. My archer is going to then, the game is then going to think that my intention is to move the archer towards this tile. So I'm going to move. It's going to make me move either here or here, depending on what the game wants to do. But if we use the ranged attack hotkey R, even if he does move that movement unit there, we're not going to move. We're just going to, we're just going to attack. If he does move, there's nothing to attack, so we won't do anything. Yeah, make sure you use R. It only works on range units. Another thing we need to talk about is zone of control. Zone of control basically is a mechanic in the game which halts movement. So cities exert zone of control, and all units except for range units and bombard units as well, I'm pretty sure. All other units exert zone of control. And basically what that means is, if I move within, so zone of control affects every tile around a unit. That means if this archer here now has got 2 movement, if he moves here, he's within this horseman's zone of control. So then all that movement he's got left now goes away. The only thing he can do is attack or heal, or like upgrade, promote, whatever. So logically, this archer could move here and then here. Because the zone of control he can't, he'll get stuck here. So that's basically zone of control. It's quite a basic mechanic, really. The only units that aren't affected by zone of control are horse units, and like I said earlier, archers don't exert a zone of control. So you need to bear that in mind when you're attacking. That's why I can move this horse all the way here, because cavalry ignores zone of control. So yeah, I think that's all the boring stuff out of the way. Like I said before, this is an online setting, so we don't have to worry about warmongering penalties from the AI. One more thing, siege in cities. So if I attack a city now, and I go to the next turn, this city is going to heal. But if I have units exerting zone of control on every tile around the city, then it's going to be what's called under siege, and it means it won't heal every turn. And we'll go into that in a few turns, actually, when we have the units to do that with. So, first thing you want to do when you load into the game is go animal husbandry. You want to find where your horses are. In this game, we found 2 horses early on. We found these ones, and we found the ones that we've settled on here. If we hover over this, we can see 2 horses per turn. You can settle on strategics like we've done here to gain the resources. Both when you're going for an early war, you're going to be either using swordsman or horseback riding. Sorry, horseman. The easier option is horseman, and we'll talk about why in just a minute. So horses and iron both yield 2 per turn when they're upgraded with a builder. You need 10 iron or 10 horses to build a horse or a swordsman, and you need 5 iron to upgrade a warrior to a swordsman. So the minimum really you want to be looking at to go into an early war is 2 of a particular resource, which we had here. If you've only got 1, you're not going to have the stockpile in time to build a reliable amount of horses to kill your enemy with. I've been in a few games myself where I've thought, oh, okay, I'm going to I've got iron or I've got horses, I'm going to go to war here, but I've got to the tech and then I've realised this is a bad idea. I don't have the amount that I need. What you can do to help this situation is that you can go Magnus Black Marketeer. Strategic resources for units are discounted by 80%. So that means that if you build a horse which costs 10 horse normally, it's going to cost 2 instead. So that's really helpful. But you are spending a lot of time on, a lot of governor slots on Magnus then. Now, early war is a huge gamble. It's, if you think of it as poker or blackjack, you've got all your chips in front of you. There's no falling back to anything really. If you fail your attack or you end up in a stalemate, you're going to be looking at like a third probably position finish max, and that's if you do super well out of the relevancy that you're going to put yourself into. So yeah, we've talked about animal husbandry. Horses can spawn on grassland and plains flat tiles. They can't spawn on hills. So grassland plains, sorry, flat grassland, flat plains. So bear that in mind when you do spawn into your game. Iron can spawn on any type of hill. Neither can spawn on a feature. So remember that they can't. If you've got jungle, woods, they're not going to spawn on the in those tiles. Marsh. So bear that in mind as well. So yeah, we've built up our army here, and we've moved towards Egypt. Now, another thing we need to talk about is an encampment, and that's because of a general. Now, a general is a great person here. There's 3, I think, in most games in the classical era. So this general affects classical and medieval units within 2 tiles. We won't talk about the retire thing because we're not going to be using it for that. So +5 combat strength is a lot early game. Obviously 1 movement is super helpful as well, especially on swordsmen, which struggle for some movement anyway. So to build a general, we need an encampment. And to build an encampment, we need bronze working. We'll talk about that in just a sec. So yeah, we need bronze working, and the boost for bronze working is to kill 3 barbarians. Now, the main difference between a horse push and a swords push is that a horse push is super fast. You go straight for it. Techs there to get there. There's only 2 previous techs that you need. One that you're going to go in like 90% of your games anyway. Ignore the boost for archery, unless you're like, I don't know, you've bought a slinger and you're 100% sure you're going to get the boost, but most of the time just completely ignore it, go straight for it, and go straight for horseback riding. When you go for a horse push, you're going to have gold to expend because you're not going to be using it to upgrade warriors. So feel free to buy a builder to upgrade your horse tile, which is what I did in this position here. So yeah, when you go for bronze working, you're going to have to kill 3 barbarians. Super annoying Eureka. It's one of the most annoying ones for me in the game, actually, just because of how barbarians behave, but we won't get into that. Again, if you're 100% sure you can get the Eureka, just do it with your first warrior. You're probably going to be building the second warrior anyway at some point to escort your first settler. So yeah, you're going to need bronze working for the encampment. Once you've built the encampment, bear in mind that you don't want to wait for 30 turns. Now, when you build an encampment, you're going to be producing a great general point per turn, but it's only 1, which isn't enough. We don't want to wait to turn 66, do we? Really? Sorry, no, we won't be want to wait until like turn 40 to attack with. So once you've built the encampment, if you are going for a general, you're going to want to do the training projects. You need to do 2 of them, ideally, to get a fast general. Pros versus cons of going for a general. I go for a general when I only have one of the strategic resource that I'm going to be attacking with, because I'm not going to have the stockpile of strategic resources to build the units when I unlock the attack. So I'm going to be using the production that I would have used on those units on doing the projects instead. It's also good for the state workforce boost, which is to build a district, speciality district. Can't see it because I've already done it. And it also gives you the military training boost. Okay, so horses versus swords. Let's talk about that for a minute. We've mentioned that it's faster to get to horseback riding, so let's talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of horses. Horses, they're a tiny bit cheaper, 10 production cheaper, 5 on online speed, so it's like that's negatable really. So the main advantages are they're a lot quicker. They've got they've got 4 movement instead of 2, so you're going to get to your enemy a lot quicker. They're going to expect it less. They've got less time to react. Horse pushes are very good at securing early cities. Another advantage is the strategic unlock is a lot earlier for horses, so you're going to be getting those horses per turn a lot quicker than you would be getting iron per turn. The disadvantage as to horsemen is that they're easily countered. If your enemy suspects that you are coming for them based on your behavior early on in the game, all they need to do is like dig in a few spears, a few swordsmen themselves if they've got good science, a few archers, maybe even walls, and you pushes over before it's began really, unless you're really confident that you can outmaneuver your opponent somehow. So yeah, that's the advantage and disadvantage of horses. We'll talk about swordsmen now. The advantages of swordsmen are we missed one with horsemen actually. Horsemen aren't affected by oligarchy, which is all land melee, anti-cavalry, and the naval melee class units gain +4 combat strength. Obviously, cavalry aren't involved in that, so they don't get that bonus, but they do get the 20% experience bonus. So that's another disadvantage to horsemen. So let's talk about swords now. Advantages to swordsmen is you can pre-build them. If you've got a lot of iron and you've got a lot of gold early game, you can do a few warriors and upgrade them to get like a super fast push with like 3 or 4 swordsmen going. Their promotions tree is a lot stronger than their horse counterpart. Their promotion tree, which I won't get into, is more suited for longer wars. So the longer the war goes on, the better the swordsmen get, where the horse promotions really aren't that good, to be honest. Another advantage is the swordsman is, like we mentioned earlier, they're affected by oligarchy. Disadvantages of swordsmen is, like we said earlier, their iron is a lot further on, so you're going to be later to iron working than you are to horseback riding, and they're a bit more expensive to produce. Okay, so we've spoken about that. Let's speak now about civics. Sorry. Obviously, you want oligarchy. No matter what you want to go that as quick as possible. But another important civic is craftsmanship. If you're going for a swords push, you're going to want agoge, which gives you 50% production towards ancient and classical era units. So that's warriors and swords and archers. If you're going for a horse push, you're going to need maneuver, which is 50% production towards ancient and classical, light and heavy cav. Now, after you've gone for oligarchy, if you're going for a horse push, once you've got your governor for Magnus, which we'll speak about in just a second, you want to go straight for military tradition because you get the flanking and support combat bonus to all combat units. What that means is, So there's two different types of thing that unlocks. One is flanking and one is support bonus. Flanking is when you're attacking, and support bonus is when you're defending. Now, what flanking does is when you choose to attack a unit, whatever unit that enemy unit has around it that are your units are going to give you flanking bonus. So here we're going to attack the archer. The archer's also got two more of my units around it. So this horseman here, as you can see in the bottom right corner of the screen now, +4 combat, +4 flanking bonus. 2 from the horseman next to me here, and another 2 from the archer here. This doesn't work on cities, so it only works on units. Maximum you can get is going to be +12, +10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 if you add a unit around every single tile. But don't worry too much about that, just try and get a few if the war's close. It can make the difference between a kill and not a kill. Archers don't get support bonus like that though. Flanking bonus, only, well, everything really except for ranged units. When you're defending, we didn't really want to speak about defending in this video, but I guess we can touch on it. It's the same, but for every unit that's next to it, you're going to get +2 defense from support bonus. But I think, yeah, that does work for archers as well. So when you're thinking about your unit composition, the bulk of your army is going to be whatever tech you aim for, so horses or swordsmen. You also want about 3 or 4 archers in there. Try and build some archers when you're not building, when you haven't got the strategic resources to build whatever your main unit is. If your enemy builds walls, you can tell if your enemy's building walls because around the city there'll be a makeshift wall, so you can tell. If they do build walls, you're going to need a battering ram as soon as possible. Battering rams are unlocked at masonry. You're just going to have to. Sometimes you can boost it, like in this position here, we've got stone, so yeah, you want to boost that. And then just buy the ram. They're quite expensive to build. 65 production. I guess they're not really actually. But you can just buy one for 125 gold, get it into position as soon as possible, and then your units will just demolish walls. Another thing I want to talk about is Governor. If you're going for an attack, obviously you want Magnus as soon as possible for the 50% yields from feature removals, and then you want to put in, if you're going for a horse push and you've got maneuver, fair enough, wait for it. If you haven't got maneuver, chop away. The idea of a horse push is to get units there ASAP, as soon as possible. So just chop horses as soon as Magnus is in that city. You could even chop without Magnus if you really want to. You can also buy a horse push. You want to get that over quickly as soon as possible. With both horseback riding and iron working, you want to aim for about turn 25 with an average start, give or take. We won't go too much into the details of that. So yeah, battering ram. Don't use warriors or slingers. Never attack with them. That's just stupid. We've talked about Magnus, barbs, terrain. We've talked about that. Keep an eye on the score screen. You can see how many units roughly your enemy has by going on the score overall and looking at military strength here. If you have the option to promote or finish a unit, we could discuss this all day, but it's usually better to kill a unit straight away. If you can take a city, you want to do that instead. Then they can't produce as many. So in this situation here, some people might argue, oh yeah, kill the archer first, get rid of his units. But no, you want to attack the city if you can, take the city. especially if he's got no units in there to increase the city strength. I guess we can briefly touch on city strength. Nah, I think we'll save that for another video, actually, like an advanced one. Basically, the strength of a city is determined by what you've got in it. So we've got a horseman in here now, so it's going to be 35 strength. It's lost some health, that's why it's 35 and not 36. Obviously, he hasn't got any he hasn't got any units in there, so it's lower. But yeah, promotions, you want to save that really for when your units are low. If you've got a promotion on a unit that's got like 3/4 health, don't use it. Try and kill a unit with it, and then use it like next turn or the turn after when you do need that heal. It's best just to get the war over and done with as quick as possible, really. Generally takes, if you've got a level 1 unit, it takes 2 attacks to get level 2. As you can see here, we did forward settle our opponent. You want to try and do that in multiplayer as well. I think we might have spoken about everything here now then that I wanted to talk about. Terrain. So we got lucky here. There's a lot of open terrain. There's not many hills or woods tiles, so we can get our units into position really easily. If you horse attack into cities that are surrounded by a lot of hills, a lot of rivers, you're going to have a hard time. You might want to think about not attacking them. Because the hills just completely kill your movement. So yeah, the goal is to take cities primarily if you can, kill units, then promote. Try not to waste promotions on full health units. Always go for the element of surprise. Try and pillage anything you can with your scouts that you've got near. And I think that's it for this video. So here's a good place for a promotion, actually. We've got a stalemate here. If we did attack this city, we're not going to take much health off the city, and we're going to take a lot. What we can do here, we ignore zone of control, remember, so we can move here. We've used 3 movement to across the river. Heal. This turns into a major victory now because we're over the river. So here again, we move here. Now some people here will be inclined to use the promotion, but it's a bad idea. We want to wait till the unit's a bit lower on health. We'll use that to keep the city's loyalty. We can also use our scouts as well to exert zone of control to siege the city. Yeah, we'll just keep building. Get the general out here. So yeah, we'll attack with that. Get the city low. Move all our other units in. Let's just skip everything here now. So yeah, this is good now. See now, he's used an attack. We can position our horse now to get around the city and promote. We've killed like 3 birds there in 1 stone. Now we want to get a zone of control on this. So here now, this city's under siege. We've got a zone of control here from this, here from this. Rivers block zone of control. So if we move that unit there, we wouldn't have the city under siege anymore, because this unit here isn't actually isn't exerting zone of control on this tile because of the river. So we've got this tile, this tile, this tile. Obviously the tiles we're standing on, but we haven't got this tile in zone of control. That's why the city is not under siege at the moment. Remember that about rivers. Rivers can be your worst enemy. To be honest, they can make or break a war. I think we briefly touched on generals, but I think I mentioned this. I can't remember actually, so I'm just going to mention it again. Going for a general is better when you don't have as many strategics. Yeah, I did mention that, so we don't have to talk about that. Yeah, we can. I think we can wrap up this video now. Other sort of advanced things you can do is stay in a dark age. Use the dark age policy card, but I wouldn't recommend that if you're a newer player. If you do want to learn about sort of advanced warfare tactics, I could do an advanced warfare tactic video. You can always come on my stream, which is going to be in the description below. So yeah, hopefully that answers all your warmongering need questions. If you do have any more questions, feel free to ask in the comments. Obviously, these are my first videos and I'm not too experienced with this sort of thing, so any feedback is much appreciated in the comments. But I hope you guys learned mouth's going dry. I hope you guys learned some information on this. Make sure to subscribe so you see any more future upcoming videos, and follow me on Twitch so you can see when I stream, and come say hi. So yeah, cheers for watching this video, guys. See you guys next time.